Hollow, Newport, Hilltoppers. Frank, I want you to send the youngest member of your family up here. I believe it's that little one right there, right?
This is my granddaughter.
Granddaughter, okay. Send your well,
This is
part
Hannah.
of your family.
All right.
We're family.
Come on.
Come on up here. I don't want anybody to be mad at me, but I know Grandpa can protect you. You see right here? These are all cards of everybody that's here, and all the names are turned upside down. And the name you pick are going to have tickets from Air Choice 1. 2 free tickets to fly from either to Chicago or to Indiana.
Did you?
So there you can go. You can pick anybody here except for Grandpa.
I'll take it.
It's divine power. Who is it? You know, even in years when there's no deer, and I kind of say, Father Rob, how'd you guys do at deer camp? Well, I got 2. So, Father, at the end, you can pick this up. Now, one more thing before we get to Frank. I'll just say this. We'll do the 50-50 as soon as we get done. So those of you that are in charge of the 50-50 money, I'll pick the ticket, and we'll pick it right after this. But Frank Verbos is our next speaker.
Before I get started, I'd like to finish the introduction of my family. Sally and I have 3 kids. Our oldest daughter, Janine, is a chemical engineer. She lives with her husband, Don, and their 2 sons, Dylan and Carson, in Melbourne, Florida. Our daughter, Jill, is a geological engineer. She lives with her husband, Dave, and their 3 daughters, Natalie, Ella, and Hannah, in Arcadia, California. Our son, Jim, graduated from Wisconsin Technical College, finished his 4-year degree in Milwaukee, and now is a systems analyst living in Menominee Falls. And there's my wife, Sally. We've been married for 47 years, and my mother used to call her Saint Sally. I never knew why, but I know now. I can tell you, being the coach's wife is probably tougher than being the coach. It's a tough time. After graduating from high school, I knew I wanted to be a football coach. And I looked around, and there were several colleges that were interested, and I visited campuses. And some were just too big, some were just too far, some I just didn't like. One day there was a knock at the door, and it was Mertz Mortarelli, the coach at Superior. And the person I'd talked to previously, and he came in, sat down, my parents liked him, I liked him, and within 20 minutes I'd signed a letter of intent, and that's where I was going. And I'll tell you, I never regretted that decision ever. It's something that I can say proudly that I went to Superior and I enjoyed the years I was there. I can tell you this, Mertz is a special person, and anybody who crossed paths with him, he left a mark on their life. For me, it was life-changing. I changed my whole attitude about everything from that day. And you can talk to just about everybody. I spent 4 years at Superior, won 4 varsity letters in football, and after graduation, Sally and I planned on getting married, so we started looking for jobs in the same community. And it was difficult. She had an interview one place, I had one somewhere else. Finally, we applied. It was her. She said, we have to apply in Ashland. I said, okay. We applied in Ashland. They gave us both an interview, offered us both a job. She has an elementary person, me as high school social studies teacher and freshman football coach. And I thought, great, that's what I wanted. being a football coach. Well, I thought, heck, freshman football, anybody can handle that. I played 4 years of high school, 4 years of college. I tell you, I found out how little I knew about football. Much of that year was spent on the job training, and we did fairly well. I guess I must be a good learner anyway. But we did fairly well. That year, the head coach quit. His assistant took the varsity job and asked me to be his assistant. The next 2 years that coach was there, we were 5-4, 4-5, and it was very mediocre. And I tried to get the kids to work in. We had to get people into the weight room. We had to get kids out for a lot of different sports because that was a good thing. So we worked at that. 2 years he left. Another coach. It's a difficult thing with a new coach all the time to build a program. Well, we find a new coach comes in, and we started to make the turn. Things were starting to get a little better. Kids started to believe that we had to be better than mediocre. And we worked hard at it. 2 years he left. Superintendent called me into his office and said, you know, Frank, you've been here 5 years. We want you taking over the football program. I said, I'm really not interested in that. I like doing what I'm doing and I'm having fun doing it. But I do have a couple requests for you. One, I want the head coach to run some type of option offense. Looked at me, no big deal, okay. The second thing I said to him is I want him to be older than me. And then he looked at me and he said, well, how long do you think we're going to be able to do that? How old are you? I said, I'm 27. He said, you know, coaches only stay here 2 years. I said, well, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. And he thought for a while and he said, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll interview. I'll have the principal screen the candidates to 3 and you can pick the one you want. I said, great. So we interviewed the candidates. One was from Colorado, one was from Michigan, and one was from Wisconsin. The guy from Wisconsin was named Ted Thompson. He's coached down by Green Bay. I talked to him first in a phone interview. I talked to all of them. They all seemed pretty good. But he had just the thing that caught my eye. I just felt that he was a good person. We would be a good team. And he would be a person that I think I could work real good with. We came in for on-site interviews. And I took him around, showed him facilities and stuff. And we were trying to make the turn to be better. We were putting in a new weight room and getting things set up. Well, we showed him all around, and after we were all done with the interviews, the principal said to me, Frank, come on in tomorrow and we'll talk about this. Well, I walk into his office, sitting, and there he has, right in front of him, a manila folder with 3 pages of accolades of this guy from Colorado. There I am with a gut feeling about this guy. I said, this is not going to go well. Well, we talked a little bit, and he said, well, I said, I want Ted. I'm sticking with my guns. This is who I want. Well, he said, go home and think about it. Come back tomorrow. I said, okay, I'll come back tomorrow. But I wasn't changing my mind. Came back the next day, the assistant principal with him. I said, oh, this is going to be better. Okay, so we talked a little more for 20, 25 minutes, and he said, well, what do you think? I said, well, I want Ted. The assistant principal says to me, if this goes down, it's going to be on you. I said, that's fine. I knew a little more about the football program than they did, and we had some real good kids at the skilled positions, but they were young. I didn't know how good we'd be, but I thought we'd be pretty good. Well, it turned out the kids bought into what Ted was selling, and we ended up 8-1. We lost 1 game by 1 point. The next year we were undefeated. The third year he was gone. The same thing. But I did this when he left. The program was in. I knew we were on good, solid ground, and the 10 years from '74 to '84, we won 7 conference championships, 4 playoff berths, and 1 state championship with 4 different head coaches. So our program was solid at that point. Now I want to talk to you about a state championship, winning a state championship, because that was a big thing in my life. Wow. You had to win 4 games, 4 postseason games in Wisconsin to be a state champion. The team that we played was Grafton, 2-time state champion. You know, and the coach from Grafton said he didn't want to play in Division II. He wanted to be in Division I. He already beat the best teams in Division I. The state said, we're not having anybody telling us what this is where you're going to be. So their scenario was set. The biggest school in Division II against the smallest. And the press played it up. Okay, fine. I'm going to tell you, it was not a cakewalk by any imagination. Our kids played the best game they possibly could play. We won the game 13-12. And you know what they call a team that wins the state championship by 1 point? State champions. They weren't going to take that away from us. After the game, head coach went in one room, talked to the press. I went in another room, talked to the coaches. The coaches said to me, you know, what type of offense do you run? I said, we run a wishbone, and asked me how we set it up, and I told them. Asked me about the defense. Finally, one guy says to me, you were really lucky to win that game. I looked at him, I said, you know what luck is? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I said, I'll tell you what, our kids prepared for this, and opportunity knocked, you pick that ball up and run with it. And that's what we did. We never looked back. The next day, after a little celebration, Sally and I were sitting in a hotel restaurant having a cup of coffee, and somebody hands me the Ashland paper. On that front page of the Ashland paper is a picture of the crowd. There's Sally standing up with her arms up in the air cheering. I handed her the thing. I said, take a look at this. She looks at it and she points to a fella sitting right in front of her. And this guy says to her, lady, will you sit down? Look at these guys warming up. They look like the Green Bay Packers. Your team looks like a junior high team. You're going to get killed. Now, I'll tell you, there was 10,000 people there. I don't know how many believe, probably not more than a handful believe we could win. But I'll tell you, there were 40 people on that sideline that believed we could win. And we did. After having a little breakfast, we headed back to Ashland. We got outside of Ashland, there were cars parked on both sides of the road, a sheriff's car right in the middle of the highway, Highway 2. Bus driver drove right up to him. The officer came on a bus and said, congratulations, and followed me. We drove down, there was cars, signs, people waving signs. We pulled up the main street of Ashland. It was like the 4th of July parade. There was that many people there. Mind you, this was the middle of November. I mean, it was the most surreal thing I'd ever been part of. I remember this stuff happened 25 years, 30 years ago. I remember it like it was yesterday. Now I had some serious decisions to make. It was, and I contemplated retiring from football. I spent 15 years coaching football, and some of it was very successful, some was mediocre. And I talked to my wife. I told her, Sally, I think I'm going to retire. She said, you better think twice about that. You've either played football or coached it all your life till now. It's going to be different for you. Okay. I said, well, change it to maybe what I need. So I went and talked to Coach Costell, the head coach. I told him, he says, coach one more year. Then we can get a guy to work with you and we can build a defense. You can teach him what you know. I said, okay. I spent one more year and then I retired. It just so happened that year, the golf coach retired. And I applied for the golf job and got it. Coaching golf was considered a plum. In the coaching profession, you had few kids to deal with, not a lot of pressure, and you played golf 2-3 times a week. What could be better than that? Yeah, we were fairly successful. We sent 2 teams to the state. We finished in the middle of the pack, not really great. But that's pretty much, I coached a little basketball at Ashland also, and I refereed some track meets also. Now, I haven't said a whole lot about being here. Now, my time in Ironwood I'll cherish forever. Those times, the friends I made at Newport School, the opportunity, you heard Percy say it, to play sports competitively at a very young age. We were very good as a result of that. Ironwood had some of the best football teams around as a result of that. The the high school coaches, I had Coach Mel Corey and Coach Johnny King, kept me on a straight and narrow. It could have been different. But I was really happy and proud when I say thank you to those guys. The community, for the sports you gave football. And I'll tell you, you can ask Bill Bassett or anybody else, I'll tell you, every game we played, that field was packed. It was just fun to play in front of a lot of people. You always played a little harder. I hope you give that same type of support to your team today. And I want to thank you all personally for the help I got personally from all of the people in this community. Thank you.